Linda.
David.
Josh.
John.
Saroja.
Wayne.
Julia.
Andy.
God.
Yosef.
Maureen.
Peter.
Carl.
Tristan.
Adrian.
Cass.
Dean.
Jacinta.
Anita.
Serena.
Grace.
And we have a couple more people coming, so I'm
Lucky.
going to organise the seats. And Bob, you can start. I'll get you the seats. No, it's okay. I'll go. I'll try so you have a good view.
Morning, everyone. Well, it's non-duality, we point out. Hindu teaching non-duality
Take the smallest
at
chair.
Veda, meaning one without a second, not two. So I can't teach you anything, and I can't tell you anything. All I can do is point toward. I ask you to look to where we're pointing to see for yourself. Because no matter what you might believe or been told, nobody can ever give you anything, and nobody can do it for you. Because if it's one without a second, you must already and ever be that. That is all there is. It vibrates, patterns, expresses in all this variety of different patterns, shapes and forms. And that's all they are. Patterns, shapes and forms. So I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm speaking to that I am, that I am. It's the same I am, that sense of presence that expresses through the mind as that thought I am. Just to this and nothing else. So whether you know it or not, or whether you believe it or not, that is all there is. And that's pointed out in so many different ways in all the different traditions if you look to him, into them deep enough. So just a recognition of your own true nature. They call it a cognising emptiness in Buddhism. We think we've got to cognise the emptiness. It's not. We don't and can't cognise anything. It's the emptiness that's doing the cognising, pure intelligence. And the Buddha told you a couple of thousand years ago, emptiness is form. It's that intelligence energy or emptiness that's forming all these patterns, shapes and forms. Emptiness is form, and he turned it around the other way and said, the form can be nothing other than emptiness. So it's that life essence that's expressing through these patterns, forms, and you are that. I am that is the great mantra. And we all know that. Because you say, that's the chair you're sitting in, that's the room you're in, that's the space in the room, that's the tree, that's the flower, that's the world, everything is already that, which we discriminated and divided with the word. How many words were you born with? And you realise you weren't born with any words. So every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been picked up along the way. You didn't learn the words till about 2.5 or somewhere around that age, where the capacity of reasoning started in you. And that capacity of reasoning is very useful. But because it is a vibration like everything else, that vibrates dualistically. One and the other, too. But it's only the one essence. And you are that. We look at
It's funny, but it is.
Bring out the seats.
All these different patterns, shapes and forms, different expression, are one that vibrates into different shapes and forms. It tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. That's all that God is a Word. All things were made by Him, by the Word. And isn't that so? You've got a word for everything. And there was nothing made that was made without the Word. But is the Word the real? Try and drink the word water. Try and swim in it. Drown in it. Wash in it. You can't. The word fire. Can you cook with it? Burn your mouth. Heat yourself with the word. You can't. So the word's not the thing. But we've got words for everything. And we take the words to be real. And you weren't born with any words. You didn't learn words till you were about 2.5. Might be longer, sooner, might be later. When your parents fussing around you taught you words. And they told you, your little Billy or your little Jane. And naturally then they took and learned words like I am. So I am little Billy or I am little Jane. Instead of saying I am the absolute, I am the totality, I am the actual reality. Now we've got this idea we are this person. And where does that word person come from? Persona, the mask. Ancient Latin. A mask, a conceptual image, which is obscuring our true nature. What are you without the word? Do you disappear without the word? You don't. Nisargadatta tells you, nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. That's an amazing statement. We get troubled by all this imagination. Break that word imagination down to imagine. Imagine. And that's all we do. We're creating mental images and taking the image and the world to be real. Look in a mirror, what do you see? You see a reflection or an image in the mirror. Can you say it's there? It appears to be there, but try and grab the reflection out of the mirror or the image. You can't. So you can't say it is. You can't say it isn't. It's the same with this manifestation. We appear to be separate, take ourselves to be separate, isn't it? But are you separate? Where did you begin? You'll say, I was born. As Nisargadatta says, there is only life. There is nobody who lives on life. Nobody. Life lives on life, and out of life, more life comes. Christ told you, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. He wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about that sense of presence that translates through the mind as the thought I am. That's what the thought I am. It's not this person. It's a sense of presence, the knowing that you are. They call it in Hinduism Sat Chit Ananda, Nama Rupa. Sat is existence. Anyone who's not existing right now. Chit is consciousness. Anyone who's not conscious or unaware at the moment? No. Ananda is loving to be. Anyone want to be dead right now? You don't. Don't you see you're already that? I am existing. I am conscious. And I am not unaware. I'm aware. So what's the search all about? Start from the fact that you are already that. That is all there is. And do away with the concepts and ideas and images. They tell you it is a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So everything in this room is appearing to be such and such, this and that. but it's still only and ever one. I call it intelligence energy. I don't use the term God because you can get confused with that term. Every tradition has a different idea or concept of what they believe God to be. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, all got to do an idea. But Hebrews tell you, hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. There is nothing other. That's all there is. If you like to use that term, you can. I use the term intelligence energy. And that's just another label. That's not it either. When I'm talking about intelligence, I'm not talking about your intellect. I'm talking about the same intelligence rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go, the tides to come in and out. It's breathing you, beating your heart, growing your hair in your fingernails, digesting your food. Life. And the Zagata says there is only life. There is nobody who lives a life. Out of life, more life comes. And isn't that a fact? Where did you come from? Didn't you come from the life of your parents? That animating life essence, that pattern you call your father? Enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form through the essence of the food he's eaten and the prana. And the same in your mother. That sperm was suffused with intelligence energy. It knew what to do. The same in your mother. That animated life essence in your mother enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle to form called an egg or an ovum. That ovum attached itself to the wall of the uterus. Knew what to do. And the sperm, knowing what to do, swam to the ovum. And when those two came together, that life doubled and redoubled and formed the little embryo of what you are today. What were you doing about it then? You couldn't do anything. For the first couple of years of your life, you didn't even have any words. But you were getting along quite all right without the word. And the troubles didn't start until in the beginning was the word. We learnt words. Then we took on the idea we are this person, this separate entity. And that's the division. Shakespeare told you there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Look at the way you think. Isn't it indeed related to pairs of opposites? It's either good or bad, past or future, pleasant or painful, happy, sad. Always dividing. And that's the trouble. We think they're divided, but it's not. They're two ends of the one stick, two sides of the one coin. So when day comes around, we think night is different, but it's just the earth is facing towards the sun in daylight, it rolls around and faces away from it. Not different at all. But with that sense of separation comes insecurity, vulnerability. All our psychological problems come about. Have a look at that. Don't realise that this manifestation is transient. It's not static. It's constantly changing. We don't realise that. So see what happens. Something comes up and we like it. We don't want the things we like to go away. Not realising that they're transient, no matter how much you love them, how much you want to keep them there, it's going to change, and you're going to change. We don't want it to go, so what do? We resist it, trying to keep it there. We hang on to it. Don't you realise that resistance is conflict? If you're in resistance, you're in conflict with it. You're fighting with it. Conflict makes you uneasy, fearful, anxious, depressed, guilty. All your psychological problems come about because of this resistance. That makes you uneasy. Another word for it. Uneasiness is disease. resistance, conflict and disease. Isn't that happening with us every day? Look at it the other way. Something comes up and I like this one. Instead of resisting from going away, I resisted by trying to keep it there. Again, more conflict, more unhappiness, more fear, more anxiety. So me, that believed in separate entity, is the cause of all my anxiety, my depression, my guilt, my shame, my fear. They're the effects of the cause, me. Cause and effect. Isn't that what so-called karma is? What happens if I investigate this idea of me and see it's just a mental concept I've taken on board with the belief in learning words? It's me, Bob. The parents told me, the good boy, or not so good. Me is the cause of all the psychological suffering. And the effects are the anxiety, the fear, the depression, the guilt, the shame. All the psychological are the effects of the cause. What would you say if you looked into the cause, me, and recognised it was a fiction? And ask yourself the simple question, can there be an effect if it's not relating to a cause? You don't have to be a rose scholar to work that out. You see that, you can be free of all this psychological problem, all this fear and anxiety. And it happens as so. And they recognise your true nature. We think we are this body-mind. Am I the body? Well, innately you know you're not the body. You say my body. You say my coat, my car, my house. You say my body. What's the body made up of? Made up of elements, air, earth, fire, water, space, just like the elements around you. Separate yourself from those elements if you can. You can't. And all those elements have been broken down to subatomic particles into pure energy. So all this body is like all the rest of the manifestation, a vibrating pattern of energy. What about this thing called mind? We believe in this mind. Well, show me a thing called mind. Again, you say, my mind. Who's got this mind? What is it? Where is it? Is there such a thing as mind, apart from thought? And if thought is mind, which particular thought would you be? Well, the primary thought is I am. And if you were that thought, you'd be frightened of letting it go at night, because it'd be the end of you. But you give it up willingly at night. So it shows you you're not the thought. Thoughts appear, come about, happen, happen. Shakespeare tells you again, nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And thinking divides, separates the indivisible and the undivided. But there's nothing separate at all. I am that, absolute. Or the Buddhists call it in Buddhism the great perfection. What can you add to the perfect? Nothing. It wouldn't be perfect if you got anything to it. What can you take away from it? Nothing. It still wouldn't be perfect. They give it in one sentence. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. You're not unaware right now. You are aware. But we're putting all sorts of concepts on it. In the scriptures they call it the absolute. The same with absolute. What can you add to the absolute? Not a thing. It wouldn't be absolute if you could. What can you take away from it? Nothing. It wouldn't be absolute. Recognise that you are the absolute. And if you recognise that, who can ever be superior to you? If it's all absolute, who can ever be inferior to you? And what would you want from the other person? Take away all this hassle and trouble that's going on if you recognise your true nature. Get the taste of it. Be what you are. As Ram Dass says, don't pretend to be what you're not. And we pretend ourselves to be this person, this body-mind, and get into all sorts of trouble. Recognise your true nature, and you'll see that things fall into place naturally and effortlessly. And that's what's happened here, and that's what happens to anyone else that recognises it and knows it. And some of you here have got a great understanding of it already, or you wouldn't be here. Why would you come here if you're stuck in the religious beliefs? Come here because something innately tells you there's got to be more to it than that, than this punishing God that's going to beat the shit out of you if you do this or do that. And we do it and we blame ourselves, we're terrible sinners and all that. But you are more than that. Be what you are. Thank you.
It's the shortest spiel ever. Come on.
Well, good.
Whoa, whoa.
Gives you all more chance to say. Tell us all about it.
Oh no, there's another one here.
No. You want this one? No, you take that.
All right, I'll give you this one.
Put that there.
Sorry. Thank you. I'm gonna get my phone too.
Can you grab this? Oops.
And make sure you're not sitting directly behind me. Just okay. I think we had a comment from a couple of people who are with us online. Ouch. Where is it? Go on. Go on. Sorry for that. So anyway, that's that part where we all contribute. There's a lot of people amongst us, as Bob said, with great clarity, with great understanding. And apart from those who are not seekers anymore and come here to actually share, because that's not something that you say every day in a cafe to every bystander, because to confront anyone that there is no self and you are life and no individual is imagined is a little bit rough for someone who is too invested in their own identity. But everyone innately know that they are. There's no one in this room who doesn't know for sure, for certain, that you exist. What you are, who you are, that's another story, and that's a story. But the certainty of existence is a fact. That's not a story, that's not a belief. So everyone here is already certain that they exist. So if you actually put the story aside of who you think or what you think you are, and dive into the heart of existence, that knowing that you are, and share from here, see what comes up. If there is a pearl of wisdom coming up, or maybe a question coming up, or anything. So we have the long cord with a mic, because we want the people online to also be able to hear you, and we invite everyone to contribute. And meantime, I'll just find that missing page. Who would like to start? Oh, Dave? David? Did you? No?
Also,
Don't be in.
I just need to get that one. Oh, what happened? Okay, I got it. Sorry for that. So we have a lot of good morning messages to all, morning and love messages to all. And we have a nice comment from Gilbert, who says the totality is all inclusive. The mind cannot only divide itself, and you cannot find the mind. So watch the mind and see how it operates. That's the key to the whole illusion. If you see how the direct experience is direct and is singular, there is the experiencing going on, and the mind comes and it divides. It says, no, there is me and there is the world. There is I and there is an experience. There is that one who sees, and this is what is seen. That is a division that comes upon singular experience.
of seeing, of being, of happening, existing. So if you can actually see how the illusion come into existence by that narrative overlaying what's happening.
All right.
All right? Yeah, then the secret is revealed and you can enjoy the show, because it still is going to appear that, yeah, I feel the pain in this body and not in the other. And the seeing comes from that angle and not the other, unless you have cameras and computers set in, then you can have any angle. But really, the experiencing is singular. And in that experiencing or that witnessing, the world reveals itself. Everything, including the body that is changing, including the thinking, including judgments and narrative, all is included in that singular experiencing. So this is really the base. And as Gilbert said, the mind cannot only divide itself, and you cannot find the mind. See if you can find it. If you can find the identity, the me, the I, that says I am woman or man, I am Australian or Polish or whatever. If you can actually find anything tangible, apart from the fleeting thought that is not even there all the time. So when you don't think you're human, are you? The experience knows nothing about it, it's a concept. So watch the mind and see how it operates, he says. And now we have, Gilbert says, to deny the reality of things is to miss their reality. To assert the emptiness of things is to miss their reality. Sin Sin Ming. And that's, how lovely is that? Yeah, we have a soft spot for Hin Sin Ming, and Bob often quotes it. And it actually shows, and thank you, Gilbert, it shows how the language can defy you, because you can neither deny it nor assert it, because it neither exists nor doesn't exist. Like Bob often shows, and maybe you could tell us about it, you know, the analogy of the reflections in the mirror. Would you like to explain that? How they neither exist nor they don't.
I did.
You did. Guilty.
I don't.
Yeah.
You see a reflection in the mirror or an image in the mirror.
Yep.
Can you grasp the image?
Mm.
You can't say it's not there, but you can't say it is there. The same with this manifestation. You can't say it is not, but you can't say it is. Doesn't stop the appearance. What appears to be, the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. Talking about the thinking too. What's your next thought going to be? Well, you'll say, I don't know. But then the thought will come up, I think. So as soon as the thought I think comes up, you've formed a thinker, a subject. And I'm thinking this thought, whatever the thought might be. And the thoughts become the object. That's where the division starts. And they call it a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be, seemingly so. It's all appearance.
And that image that we hold of ourselves appears in the mirror of the body-mind. And it isn't there, and it seems to be there. The identity that we hold dear, it seems to be there, because the belief comes into it, and obviously there is, with that belief comes the identification, the identifying with the image. But it can't be found, it can't be grasped, it is only an appearance, a mirage. It's seemingly in the body, but you can't find it anywhere in the body. Well, if you have a magnifying microscope, you can't even find the body. All you can find is just the vibrating, pulsating, throbbing life, energy, potential. It's nothing that really can be found. And I don't really see any more comments, but we have 35 people with us, so we invite people with us to contribute, and most of all we invite you guys to share and say. Lindsay, would you like to start us? Oh, you have such a wonderful way of presenting it.
I'm not sure I have anything to say, but I was just watching the cat and going about, his or her business in the kitty litter. And just, it was just really amazing to watch the way the movement doesn't happen from mind. It comes from the intelligence itself, and we are that. That's it. That we are that. And when that's seen again and 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 again ad infinitum, like the understanding seems to get stronger. And even though thoughts and seeming identification and all of that still appears, it's like the hands just get taken of it, the hands of the so-called me, with all its investment in a future, all its regrets and whatever from the past just get seen. There's nothing, as Bob has pointed out, for decades, there's actually nothing at all to fix. There's no image to fix, and it's that belief that I am somehow an individual that is awakening, or an individual that has to, the picture doesn't look quite right, so there's got to be something else. That's the illusion, and you can't do anything about that, except just be here as you are, in the naturalness of who you are, with all that's appearing. Like Gilbert said, it's absolutely inclusive of everything. Nothing can be excluded. And it's like I used to think that you all existed. I used to think that it mattered to me what you and you are thinking or perceiving, but actually you don't exist. Not in the way of me and you. And it changes everything, just simple seeing that the only thing I know is that I am. The absolute only thing that I know is that I exist here. And out of that, everything else appears. And it includes all the sensations and the thoughts and the movements, all of it. Nothing is excluded. So a so-called feeling of sadness or regret or shame or whatever, when it's just left by itself, as Bob has always pointed out, when it's just left as it is, as Bob would say, unaltered, unmodified, and uncorrected, it's energy. It moves of its own accord. It's the way of the intelligence, is to become whole, is wholeness itself, and so it cannot do anything but that. But when we believe that we have to somehow get rid of that in order to be a good one in the world, in order to be valuable or worthy, then it's like we're disrupting the flow of what naturally wants to just unfold. And that's the direct experience here. Through the inquiry, this living, alive, intelligent inquiry of looking and seeing and understanding again and again and again, that all I know for sure is I am. And it contains everything. And the mind, forget it. And it's, it just thinks it knows and it wants and it and even that, it's just, that's the movement and that's what is. So I'm noticing my face gets really red when I speak, but it's like boom, 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 lots of heat.
Beautiful. Wow, thank you for that. That was gorgeous. Yeah. What a great point. See, starting from watching the cat or watching the nature, watching anything in nature. And you see how the nature doesn't add that overlay. Oh, I need to go to the kitty litter. Oh, my bladder is busting. Oh, I'm ashamed, I'm too fat. None of that is happening with the cat. It's only the human affliction, which is a wonderful capacity to be able to narrate the stories and connect via the stories. There's nothing wrong with that. But the other end of the stick, the one that hurts, now there is something wrong with me. Now I need to fix, work on myself. That's unnecessary. That's the suffering.
I might say something.
Oh, please.
Just on that, just think about the separation. I think about criticism, and what going on from what you're saying. It's all just one. But when we criticise something or someone else, instead of just leaving it as a thought, we take on the I'm right and they're wrong idea, and the immediate separation, and it becomes a judgment and a hard idea. And then we criticise ourselves or criticise the image that we think we are, and that sets up that internal conflict and pain and suffering arising out of that. And it makes me think of that, often think about that, the biblical quote, "Judge not lest you be judged," because you sort of set yourself up as an entity and then make those judgments, and then the judgments recoil on you, and the pain comes out of that idea of being separate and wrong, and, as you say, something that has to be fixed.
Yeah. Jacinta?
It's like musical chairs.
I didn't make it here last week, and actually I was just laying in bed, looking out my mirror on the window, and just realising for a few hours I was just everything. The birds came and played in the rain. The sun came out, went in. It rained, and all along I felt like I was just part of that on the big screen. It was just everything. So the more you just look and just feel what's around, the more connected you are to everything.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I always love the stuff about the separation, because I notice the seeing from that place of spirit is completely different to the seeing from a me filter, and it's like a sort of a sense of more the energy rather than the material that's appearing out of the nothing. Like it's like what am I trying to say? It feels like it's just seeing from that place of energy that sees all the forms operating on top of it. It's like coming from beneath it. And that's the place of refuge for me, because sometimes that last night still some psychological suffering will come up, and it's about going beneath that or deeper than that, or transcending that, or coming back to that place of stillness or refuge, turning away from the mind altogether, and sitting in the stillness, and inevitably from there something, a truth sort of can come through and starts to see that thoughts have got nothing to do with me at all. Like they're completely not related to what I am at all, unless you're looking at it from a place of totality, but just from this place of seeing what I'm not. So for me, that deeper place of the stillness and sitting as that, and turning away the attention to the mind and just being okay with everything, even when shit's happening, being okay with that as well, and just going okay, and not resisting. So yeah, they're my thoughts.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, please. This way.
Reach as far.
Yeah.
How we doing, everyone?
Cool.
So I had I had an interesting experience this past week. My partner, we were biking home from work, and she was coming down a hill, and long story short, she fell off and knocked herself out, and I was obviously there with her, and when I went to go and see her, she had no memory of where we were or what country we were in, where home was, who she was. She kind of knew who I was. And in this sort of, what most people would find a devastating moment, it was quite beautiful because we were still there. We were still here. And there was no collection of where we were or who she was, but yet we were still there. So it was such a clear experience, and that lasted for I don't know, the whole night. She's good now, long story short. But that whole night she didn't know how, we were in the hospital for 5 or 6 hours, and then when I asked her how long she thinks she'd been in here, she said 10 minutes. Just no collection of time. So I guess, what does that say? I guess with the memory, the memory creates the sense of time. It creates this sense of someone that's not really there. And when there's, those moments where the memory isn't there, you're still there. And so it's very clear that you aren't what you think you are, because it is a memory. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Good to see that time's a mental concept also.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a past if you don't think about it? Try and live yesterday. Is there a future if you don't think about it? You can anticipate and imagine what you're going to do after this, but you won't be there. Always presence. Pre-sense, before the senses start evaluating with this thought or that thought or this concept.
Yeah, it's just considering again about, for me, much contemplation goes into the present moment, and not, not holding a position to what's going on in the present moment, because even just thinking, well, no, that's that's fine, that's all okay, it still suggests that there's a not okay. Mm-hmm. So actually just being open to whatever presents. Now, I had quite an interesting experience during the week where I lost all of my things. I left them on the train. But mostly what it turned out I lost were all my tools of trade. Plus some really nice handbags and things. And that was really quite shocking. I was surprised to see, the shock my mind went into. But through non-resistance, is there ever anything wrong? I can't really say, if I'm in a war, I've never been in a war or some terrible disaster, but I don't know that anything can change from that stance. Is anything ever wrong? Because if it's wrong, then there's a right. Yeah. So there only ever is. Isness, as Bob says here. Yeah.
Do you want to add something to it?
What is unaltered, unmodified, uncorrect. Is not what. It's not what will be. It is His presence.
We have a couple of comments from people who are with us online. So here is Ram. Watch the mind with diligence and without succumbing to inadvertence. Good morning from Colombo, Sri Lanka. Hey, Ram. And Vivek says, silent mind is bliss. So much peace and just be. And Bradley, when the I am leans to think, it tries to give order to chaos through thought. Realization, split to realization. Brilliant. Sees the I am is chaos in form. And Daniel says, I love the pointer of the image in the mirror. That is just an appearance. This points us to deconstruct the image of the body appearing in awareness. All forms, all concepts and phenomena appearing in the field of awareness. Neti, neti, not this, not this. You are not in the world is in you. As awareness, all things exist in you. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. The image appears in the body, but the body appears in the awareness, of course. If not for the life essence, there wouldn't be a body. And Ram says, watch the mind with diligence without succumbing to inadvertence. That's the same that was there before. And Daniel says, this too is the teaching of the Four Noble Truths of Buddha. Suffering arises from attaching to forms, the primary attachment being to identity, to any form or phenomena or concept as being yourself. Yeah, that's right. Those sacred ancient teachings, they all kind of have the same core. You can see the essence of them being the same. As Bob often brings up the roots of Christianity with a beautiful pointers. The same in Buddhism, the same in Jewish religion or Islam. He occasionally just shows how you can draw from any tradition and find the same base, because there is only one. Everything springs out from that one, so holographically it is that one essence taking a form of everything. So that's it for the online comments.
Just following on from what you said, Anita, I remember reading a Lawrence of Arabia book, and Lawrence, W.E. Lawrence, I think his name was, he left his manuscript. Pardon?
Waving to the
Oh, okay. Carry on, wave. He left the manuscript in a train station, and he didn't get it back. He had to rewrite the whole book. I think the initial book was called The Seven Pillars of Wisdom. You have to add another eighth pillar, wouldn't you, really, to be true there? To give up the fruits of your labour and everything. What else was I going to say? Just that everything occurs within this basic space of awareness, doesn't it? Everything we can think of, everything we can conclude. I love to say all the food we've eaten, everything comes from that basic space to which we are aligned. We are that basic space of phenomena, and so don't worry about a bloody thing. It's all coming out of that anyway. So there's nothing to work out. There's no position to take. Can't take any position at all without the ramification of the dualistic nature of it appearing anyway. So just be happy and relax, Bob.
Without attribute.
Do you want the mic?
Yeah. Touching on space. It's all they call it space-like awareness. Awareness is like space. Can you find a centre to space? Can you pinpoint a centre, a beginning to it? Does it have any boundaries? No boundaries, no beginning. It just is. And can you postulate or think of anything at all that would be outside of space? What would it be in? You realise it would have to be in space. Space is no thing. Hasn't got any shape, hasn't got any form, and can't postulate anything outside of it. So every so-called thing is the content of space. Space is no thing. Can something come from no thing? It can't. So it's all that space-like awareness that appears seemingly so. So where did you come from? Come from the essence of your parents and all the rest of it, who are the content of space. And aren't you the content of space? Can you get away from it?
Bob, just a short question on the back of that, if I may. Sorry. Doesn't space, without space there could be nothing at all, because doesn't space define everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, so everything is no thing, and the no thing is everything. Hi, space.
Feeling spacious today?
And even with the crowd that we have today, there's still more space in the room. There's
Not much.
yeah. And the amount of awareness in there. Like Bob often asks, are you unaware? You're not. The awareness is there. And it expresses through all the body minds. But it is there. It's undeniably there. The beingness, the existence. And that's the only thing that matters. The rest is the passing story. It's a moving phenomena. It's an entertainment. And it may feel like, there are some situations where the life takes that spin and it really gets tough and it gets fast and it crushes like the river on the stones and creates whirlpools, and you get like we had a man who was delivering the online shopping, and he was, oh my God, poor man. He's lost his wife 4 months ago. His daughter ended up in a hospital with epilepsy. His mother or father, someone, he piled up the stories of the disasters that happened one after another within the last 4 or 5 months. And obviously he was boiling up with that drama, because I'm a stranger, I'm no one, and he just exploded. And yes, life does get like this. Regardless of the clarity or lack of clarity, life is like a river. When you look at the animals who live in the natural state, they do get abused, they do get through war zones or droughts or floods. That all happens. But psychological suffering is something that is added. The disasters, the pains, the diseases, the old age, in that seeming appearance, are inevitable. They belong to the dream. They part of the rules of the dream, that forms have beginning and an end. So everything that appears as a form, the car, the costume, the vehicle, the body, that will just kind of adhere to those rules of gravity and building up and decaying. But the suffering, the mental suffering, the psychological suffering, is something that is added. Because I saw the same man few days later with another delivery, and he was in absolutely clear space. He says, oh, hi, good to see you again. I got the right gate this time. And how amazing. He wasn't in the mind, in the story of the drama, and he was happy to be. And we can live the same way regardless of the situation of cancer or children loss or disease or anything. If you think about it, it will load you down. If you manage to relax out of that commentary and just be present with the miracle of unfoldment, even if there is in the whole bigger picture, in the story, even there is something to pick on and build on and create the big juicy drama out of it. If you don't give it attention, it is not being experienced. Psychological suffering comes up from giving attention to those ideas and stories that are, oh yeah, but you can't deny. Well, you can't deny, but you can't experience. We can say the hunger in the world, or the Holocaust, or any idea that we bring in. We can say, is it experienced if you don't think about it? Unless you bring the thought, and unless you really embody that thought, and give it a lot of your heart in it, it can't be experienced. We don't discuss whether it exists or it doesn't, because we just said the world is the appearance. So what does it matter whether the past or another location is real if this is not? But the fact is that on the level of direct experiencing, you know that you are, and unless you embody and believe a story, that's it. And there is no suffering in just plain being. There's no suffering if I don't call it guilt, shame, remorse. If I'm not calling myself a victim and the world the perpetrator, and if there is no overlay, or even if the overlay is there, but it's the same way the cinema, the movie, the Netflix, the screen is appearing. If it is viewed in the same way, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't have to bring that deep sense of suffering. Do you want to add something?
Not at the moment.
Jay says it's pretty nice knowing things work out of their own accord. How beautiful. Yeah, isn't it? Things work out on their own accord. Leave them as they are, as Lizzie was saying. And they will change, because that's the only constant. Everything constantly changes. If you're going to be expending a lot of energy to resist stuff, to resist the bad weather, or to resist anything at all, well, yeah, you're just going to get weak and sick and acidic. But things will change regardless of that resistance. So saving that energy for loving to be is what a better investment. It's not that anyone has a choice and anyone can do it. You know, this is the me, the individual, and I choose to be happy. No, there's no one there. But that phenomenon of vibrations of energy and a resonance, and really bringing up those pearls of pointers which may strike a chord in the heart, because deep down, who does not know that they are? And in that knowing that you are, who does not trust that that's really the only truth and fact? The rest is the story, and we know the story can be said in many different ways. You can have the positive spin on the story, or you can have a victim heaviness on the story, but that's all interpretation. That's not the fact. That's a story. Yes.
Pete's going to go first.
Okay.
Oh,
And then John.
I just looking around the room and looking at feeling what unites us rather than separates us, and it's a quite amazing thing if you just do that. Look around, forget everyone's names, you know, and labels and forms, and everything I may have said in the past, think what they're going to say in the future, all of that, and just feel each other's presence here. It's quite a phenomenal thing, isn't it? It's a beautiful thing. Everyone is love to give, and we all want the best for each other, don't we? There's only here that doesn't want the best. In that we're unified, totally unified, aren't we?
Yeah.
Even that becomes a story, maybe. But we're, you know, even in our pursuit of separation, we're unified because everyone's doing the same thing, aren't they? You know, that's all I wanted to say, really. I love you all, and everybody loves everybody, and it's all fantastic, isn't it?
Who is it?
We've talked a little bit about true and false, and I just what was coming to mind was the quote, "Know the truth, and the truth will set you free." And what is there to be free from but just your believed in thoughts? And it seems that these thoughts or the beliefs, the one that seems to have the most glue is whatever we put after the words I am. And if you investigate, the false doesn't stand up to it, and when it's seen that the I am is, well, there's being, but no one's being. It's quite liberating, because as I think Cliff was talking about judging, judge not lest thou be judged. When we're judging, I'm the one suffering, and so when I'm seeing that oh wait, who's judging? I can never find a judge. I can find judging. I can't find a judge. Seemingly, anyway. I see the thoughts coming and going. And that's, it's really, I think it's really nice. It's very liberating to just be able to see this no thing. It's the freedom, really, is this no thing, this no one. Because that was the glue that made it hurt. It was my problem, or my dad, or my story, or my. I remember when my dad was alive, I noticed once that I had all these, I was thinking about him. He was sweet, he was funny, he was easygoing, he was smart, he was cheerful, and all those are descriptions. And he's not that. And what was tremendously helpful was just, because sometimes there was like, I don't know, when he went, there was this feeling of loss and this sadness or missing him. And all that was required was a peek. Right. Can I find where we're separate without a believed in thought? And I never could. And that's just absolutely game changing. And I'm just so grateful. I mean, even if there is no one to be grateful, there's a lot of gratitude, okay? Yeah.
Thank you very much. A number of years ago, I heard a statement which I thought it started me on the path, or a path. I won't say the path, but and it was in terms of conceptual paraphernalia, the labels, the concepts, the things of the mind, and it was that the map is not the territory, and that was okay, that's interesting, and I guess it started me on a personal journey over a number of years, and I went down the path of Buddhism, and it got to the stage where I was fortunate enough to take part in a Buddhist pilgrimage 5 years ago to India and Nepal, and it was 3 weeks, and it was go, and it was wow, it was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so grateful for that experience. The thing for me is when it comes to personal experience and finding out about Advaita, especially the teachings of Nisargadatta Maharaj, Ramana Maharshi, etc. I think for me, and something else hit me, was that if the map's not the territory in Advaita, personally, I feel that the territory's not the territory. And it's like, okay, let's go a little bit deeper and let's have a look, have a little bit, further exploration. And for me, I mean, I'm just so thankful that locally here that we have this amazing environment, that Bob and Kat have been able to share this environment, to have us all here. And it just, once again, it's step by step. It's so if the territory is not the territory, it's like a whack. It's like, okay, here we go again. But it's fascinating. It's exhilarating. It's daunting, but it's something I am so thankful and so grateful for. So thank you to you both, and thank you to everyone here. It's a marvellous experience.
Just on the map being not the territory and us not being what we think we are, that we are what we, what is it in the imagination or what's in memory. And, if it's all conceptual, nothing can be lost in death. I mean, there's nothing that can be added and nothing that can be taken away. The so-called body disappears, but it's not what you think you are anyway. So and losing another person, I've come to realise that nothing really is lost either there, that everything that they were is in the mind, and so it goes on, so there is nothing really that, while all the appearance comes and goes, nothing really comes and goes at all.
Yes.
There's only life.
There's only life, yeah.
I say the map's not the territory. The description is not the described. What we're trying to describe here is not described. And the word's not the real.
And there's only one thing to be understood intellectually, that the truth can't be found in the mind. Or in words, yeah. There is nothing that can be grasped through that divisional, conceptual thinking, because they call it non-conceptual awareness. It's cognizing emptiness, so it's the emptiness with the capacity to cognize, and not our intellect or our capacity to grasp or understand. Is how liberating is that if this is really taken to the heart, that it cannot be understood conceptually or intellectually. So many people comes here, I've studied it for so many years and I have clear understanding on the intellectual level, but I can't feel it, I can't embody it. There is no intellectual understanding of that. Intellectual understanding, another word for intellectual understanding is belief. And you can't believe that you are. You know it for certain. If you think you can, try to believe that you are not. You can't do it. This is so self-evident. That existence, that being is so self-evident. So it's that simple. What needs to be understood or known for certain is already known for certain as a fact beyond concepts. As Marty was saying, his girlfriend or wife or partner lost the capacity of recalling the memory, or had the concussion. She didn't know who she was, where she was. But she knew she was. That evident truth of existence is not being obscured in any way. So that is the only truth, that is the only thing that needs to be known. Not really understood, because it doesn't need to be understood. What does need to be understood, that the conceptual thinking cannot grasp it. So quit trying to understand it with the concepts. We use all those beautiful analogies, the pointers, maps not the territory. What a wonderful pointer. I loved what you said, territory is not the territory. Wonderful. We are actually just really doing the beautiful expression of love for being through talking about it, thinking about it, and putting ineffable and inexpressible and impossible into those pointers. Because, as Bob was saying, I call it intelligence energy, but that's not it. Of course it's not it. No word is it. Word appears and disappears on it or in it. So yeah, the ingraspable, ineffable. And for a very, very basic reason, because it is a singularity and mind is duality. There is no other way than to thinking than vibration, up and down, good, bad, black, white, whatever, the movement
how the movement can ever comprehend the stillness. The movement appears and disappears in the stillness, so it can't be understood. And at the same time, we of course welcome all the questions, because that's the joy, that's the fun. We're not here to say or teach anyone what they don't know, because who doesn't know they are? It's really just a joyous expression of love for life.
That's what we said at the start, it can only point toward. And you've got to look to see what we're pointing to, see for yourself. Nobody's going to do it to you. Belief, that's another one we looked into, definition of belief. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Put your belief to that test, see if they'll stand up.
Yeah, not much is left when that one is taken on board. All the popular beliefs that we have, starting from the point that I end here, and not I, is out there.
And being's another one. Being, knowing, loving to be, that's that Chaitanya in a different way. We call ourselves human beings. Believe in God, we'll call God a supreme being. Take away the word human, take away the word supreme. Try and say you're not being without the word. You're pure being.
Yeah, we have Vivek added, Dale Allison says, the name's not the thing. Yeah, absolutely. And Vivek says intellectual understanding, mind or individual personality has to die. Yeah, we could say that, although it doesn't really have to die because it has never been born. It is just an appearance. Like, we don't have to knock down that mirage there. We don't have to just ruin it. It's just to see through. But yes, it's a good point, Vivek, absolutely. What is left is real. Yes, that's Vivek says. So that's the good news. They say kill the ego, get rid of the ego. Ego is your enemy. Push it, Bob sometimes says, push it under the carpet or fix it. No, nothing needs to be done about the ego apart from seeing that this is smoke and mirrors mirage. This is an illusion. It's a concept, it's a balloon. It doesn't really have any substance. Some people call personality an ego. Oh, what am I going to do without my personality? Well, personality is a characteristic of the body-mind. Nothing needs to be done about it. Anyone who has the animal or have seen an animal who live in the natural state because they don't have the conceptual self which hypnotize them into believing that they are individual separate entities. They have beautiful personalities or horrible personalities, but they do have personalities, and they are not the problem. Although, of course, certain traits of characters or lacks of values and stuff like this can make the dream more kind of difficult. If you are unlikable or rude, yes, sure. But even that's not a problem, because the moment you realize that that's not who you are, the stink goes out of it. And as Bob often points, if I wasn't separate, if I wasn't individual, if I wasn't incomplete and deficient, what would I ever want from you? If you weren't superior and I wasn't inferior, what could I ever want from you? Would I need to steal or kill or anything? Would I need to be rude or anything like that? Those things come from the identification with that insecure, vulnerable, deficient, incomplete, poor little me. And if that is seen through, maybe not overnight, certain habits or certain hormonal settings in the body of being like a volcano or something, that may take a while. But the stink goes out of it. And the smooth sailing comes, just flowing with life without resisting it.
It's innately everyone, and then when they hear it, something resonates with it. That resonation is the recognising of it. And that'll take you further then. Get the taste of it. Goes where it needs to go. All by itself. Brought you into existence. It's breathing you, beating your heart, digesting your food. Right now. You can't say you are not.
Hello, my name is Heyman, and I'm interested in non-duality. Thank you. I realized, I don't know how long ago I realized I cannot do anything artificially. I can only do it naturally, in which case that's not me that I'm doing it. So the way is effortless, and that doesn't mean it's easy, because most of humans that I'm including those humans, their discomfort is their comfort zone. So I'm comfortable while I'm discomfort. So in order to let's say transform the discomfort to comfort, that contains a little bit of effort. But then, of course, when I realized that I'm pure comfort, there was no way that leads to this result, which is comfort from discomfort. Discomfort inside my chest and upper body doesn't allow me to speak relaxed as Sailor Bob and many others speak. But nevertheless, in comparison to my own past in linear time as a psychological, physical identity, I'm at best right here, right now. But the miracle, the beauty of my life, which is not my life, is this beautiful family, and I would like to eventually be a better friend for my friends. Eventually, when I come into this place, have eye contact with my friends, and from my heart tell them, hi, how are you? I love you. You are my friend. I'm your friend. You are my brother. We are brothers and sisters. We are same energy. And eventually it will happen in the future, because time does not exist. And we have no argument about past and future. So why not I can relaxedly say it will happen in the future. Thank you, and may God continue. Bless itself.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You are already that high.
Yes. That's lovely. You can yes, trust life. Whatever needs to happen, it will just. Thank you. And we have Jay say, that's what we are doing. We are getting the taste of it. What Bob says. And like Heyman says, may God continue bless itself through each and every one.
Just in the theme of losing things. Had a dream a couple of nights ago, and a friend of mine and I were checking into the airport to take a long journey, and suddenly we both realised and looked at each other and simultaneously realised that we had absolutely no documentation whatsoever. It had all been lost, passports, money, visas, everything. Not only had we lost it, but we had no idea where we lost it or even when we lost it. It was not there, but we had no details about its loss. And it was, as you can imagine, an interesting moment, and I looked across at the woman behind the counter, and she rummaged around some papers, and she said to my friend, well, there's something there about you, and she looked at me and she said, but there's absolutely nothing there for you whatsoever. Wow. Just today, being here reflecting on that, without an identity, there's no journey possible. But is there a journey that's required to be made? You know,
good point.
If there's no journey to be made and there's no identity linking, what's wrong with the present moment?
Yeah.
What's wrong with right here? Yeah.
So, and also, just a separate point, I remembered many years ago, in Queensland I was in my late 20s, and I became, for various reasons, disoriented, physically disoriented. I became lost in the bush and psychologically disoriented, and eventually came to a state where I was totally unable to give anything a name. Wow. That everything was out there, the experience was there, the bush was there, everything was there, but I could not name anything at all. That capacity completely shut down, which was very alarming, I have to say, at the time, with no reference for it, and lasted several days actually. Wow. I was by myself. And then gradually that capacity to name returned. But feeling about it now, that, you know, that's precisely the natural experience, really. The name is secondary. The naming capacity is secondary. The naming habit, remove that, still here, you know, even if a little disturbed by the experience at that point in time, but it was memorable, of course. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay, did you want? No? Did you?
I'll have one more. Yes, it did that before too. It flicked off. Okay. Yeah, it's just the thing, and it's also probably a question for Bob as well. Throughout my life, from a young child, there's always been a sense of self, deep self, which is silent and doesn't make comment, or an observer, you'd say. You know, so no matter what was happening in life, there was always this sense that there was something immediate and most intimate, that where everything was okay, it didn't get affected. And certainly as I've grown up and aged and things, that's it becoming even more prominent, that thing. And so probably what I'd like to ask you, Bob, is you know, awakening isn't an end point, is it? No, it's just a continuing deepening and unflowering. You know.
Observing.
Observing, yeah.
It's going on right now. The observer, something's come and gone, and the observed is done. But observing or seeing or hearing, that's actuality.
Continuously in change too, but not the observer, not the thing that is most ourselves, the deepest level, most ourselves without name and form, but it's that deep sense of self. Yeah.
It's knowing.
It's a knowingness. It has no shape or form or attributes or identity, just as the most intimate isness and deep sense of that. But as I become older, that's sitting in that space becomes more and more readily and easily accessible. It's always been there anyway. It's just the mind that comes and goes from it. But the ability to sit there, so there is continuous change. Yes. Thank you.
Changing.
Changing. Yeah. All of that changes that field.
And there is a comment from Bradley. He says, you does a U-turn and returns to the source. Yes, you does a U-turn. Beautiful. Dean, would you like to say something?
No.
No?
It's been a lovely meeting and some really good stuff said. I don't know what to say. Is it like jeez, you know, I've come here hundreds of times over many years and listened to Bob and got pointers and insights. And I think if anyone's sitting here, you know, as an individual trying to get a pointer like that is helpful in one sense. Like there's a and there's maybe an insight might come from it, and things grow and develop. But it's like everything that we've been talking about. We called it the emptiness cognizing itself. We called it awareness. We refer to it as the totality. We could call it the dream. We could say it's all consciousness. But until it's seen, or oneness, or we can go on in descriptions, but until you're not looking at this as I'm a person sitting in a room with other people, learning something, getting something, once you see that that's an idea, that's just a bundle of thoughts as well. And if that's seen, then it just becomes this, then the totality, the emptiness, it starts to really, what is always there, it starts to reveal itself as always being there. And it simplifies things a lot easier. So having sat here so many times with Bob, listening to it, getting insights, going home, going, wow, having Kundalini stuff, and, you know, go, yes, I've got it. And then I've lost it, and the next day, geez, I've got to go back to Bob's. and yeah, all that, it's all an individualisation. Like, it's all just a me that isn't, that's trying to get something, it'll never get anything. And yeah, I think there's a relaxation of that just happens eventually of trying and realising that the more you try, there's no one's ever going to get anything here. And then it's like a type of surrender, I guess, and good stuff happens. And sorry, were you going to say something, Bob?
Well, a couple of hours ago there was nothing in this room.
Yeah.
It was empty. So all the energy and everything else has been brought by you people.
But I like your summary, Dean, that it really isn't about getting anything. That's the main thing. Is Bob sometimes says that because he says start from the top, you are already that intelligence of life, and now see what obscures it. If there is something else where the attention goes, then that open field of knowing, then these are the obstacles. Those are imagined obstacles that are obscuring it, and they can be discarded. So they can be, as Dean says, you relax out of that nonsense, or surrender into that heart of hearts, into that love of being. Yes, Joseph?
I was just thinking before if I want to say anything, and I was thinking, oh, what should I say? Because every time someone says something in my understanding or in my story I have, when I go back in past and think, oh, I thought about this and I felt that way. And for the pointers, I'm looking at what everyone says something. I'm like, oh, that's what I did. And there's always a recognizing in each one, but sometimes I can't put it in words. And then I'm like, oh, I don't read usually, but then when I hear the pointers of Bob or you guys talking, and then I'm looking back what my psychology suffering is or was, not necessarily present, but then I'm coming here, I'm happy, and then when I'm home, I'm alone, and I'm thinking that, and there's a pointer, and it's like, oh, that's what the thought is again, and that's why I felt that way, and so on and so on. So then I can't even say it, because in every word someone says, it makes click, 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 and it seems to be like, that's what I did. That's what's happening. So every time I come here, I have that, let's say for 2 weeks ago, or maybe 4 weeks ago, when I go back in time and think, oh, that's how I felt, and that's what I was thinking. And then with these pointers, it sort of unravels it, and it's like, that's just a story. And then it's just a pointer, a reminder. And it's like, oh. And also more, it adds to it. Like it's understood, and then next time I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, that's what I did. And so it's, quite helpful to the unfolding the drama, or the psychology drama, which is less now than in the past. So that's what brings me here, basically. So I was just trying to get clear myself. Well, what can I say or why? Because you're putting out these pointers, or when you say you go home and you think about this, and for me it's more like a story I'm running or emotion feeling, and I'm like, what is that feeling there? Is it linked to the thought, or is it linked to how I feel right now, or is it? And I was like, oh, hang on, no, I was thinking something, and that's why I felt that. And then I thought about, now I thought about something positive, and I'm happy. It's like, oh, it's a thought too. Yeah, it's like both directions. It's just a thought.
You may consider the shortcuts, instead of chewing on those thoughts, feelings, emotions, and analyzing what I've done and when and how. Acknowledge that all of that is happening within that field of awareness. Just, include the heart, put it in, not into understanding the particulars of the mind operating, which is helpful, obviously, but into the, acknowledging that life, that silence, that beingness in which all that turmoil happens. That is a shortcut, because then you bring that life, that attention, that precious light of attention into the source rather than into the way the source plays out. Of course, what you're doing, you're not doing. This is the happening. This is just what's happening, the tendency to understand or work it out or see what comes from where and how it obscures. That is also a pattern, that is also a program, and it is helpful, it is watching the mind. But acknowledging that this watching a mind is happening, while the particulars of the details of it, that this is all embraced in that space like awareness or the being. That is a little bit of a, like a little bit of a shortcut back to the heart, from that chewing into the being. And I think there was a comment made by Bradley, the person never wakes up. Awake is awake to the person, or from the person, whatever. The person never finds the light. The person is made of light. So all those thoughts, feelings, emotions, the transformations of that life essence. So focusing on those can give you a wonderful insights.
I was what when you say that, things of pattern come up, like
Yes.
emotional pattern or things like that, and also about 3-4 years ago, I used to have boils on my body, and on the medical started as a multi-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, which is resisting. And when I went to chiropractor, he does kinesiology, he said these are unexpressed emotions. Now at that time I didn't understood what he was talking about, but when you say resisting or dis-ease, when you're pointing out be happy with what is, I'm pretty confident that there's also physical relations to it, which was there, but it was all unconscious to me. That's it.
Lovely. Thank you. I have a couple of things to actually broadcast. First of all, we have Zoom meetings. There is a Zoom meeting tomorrow in about 20 hours. So everyone who is in both Americas, that's your time zone. So check our website, silorbobadamson.com/meetings, and you will have all the details. And another one is we have these beautiful cards that are in Europe currently. So anyone who is from Europe, they right now they're in UK with our dear friend Sophie, and instead of buying them in America and having to pay the shipment to Europe, you save yourself time and money. And you save, we don't make any profit of it, but with Amazon I'm actually paying for it because the Amazon has the fees. So at least those sold in Europe, I won't be paying extra for them. If anyone would like a deck, they're beautiful. They're pearls of wisdom, of Bob's wisdom, the diamonds. They're not to teach, they're to just shine. They're reminders, they're lovely. And so right now Sophie is in UK. She'll be there for a week, and then she travels to Portugal. So anyone who is in Europe, I'm talking to the people who listen mostly, contact us, sailorbob.adamson7@gmail.com. Give us your postal address, and we will forward to Sophie. And once she knows how much the cost of the postage is, we're gonna let you know how to pay for it. So we have 2 other Zoom meetings from people who are in Australia and Europe. They are Tuesdays and Thursdays. So again, information on the website. Please tune in if you feel like it, and we will see you all there. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.